Hey everyone, today we'll be talking about what every single one of you have experienced in the top lane. Complete hopelessness after an awful start where you die more than once early on in the lane, leaving you longing for the classic FF at 15. Today, we will see Smeb, Korea's best top laner right now, get completely destroyed in a winning matchup by mechanical outplays where he is later able to come back and hard carry without any help besides simply outsmarting his opponent. Which is great for us because that is exactly what we aim to teach at GANKED, being the more intelligent laner and decision maker. In this matchup, Smeb is playing Aatrox and he's against the Jax. Regardless of what champion you play, you will learn tips for how to come back from behind. But if you play bruisers that are similar to Aatrox like these, or fighters that are similar to Jax, then you will learn even more. Before we get into the main part of the guide, let's quickly run through matchup analysis as always to give you a feel for what both players will be looking to do and why. For damage, Aatrox wins short burst trades using his abilities and then kiting back. But if Jax can stick to Aatrox, he will do more damage over time with his superior auto attacks while Aatrox's abilities are down. For range, Aatrox has considerably more with his spells. And for wave clear, Aatrox wins again with his AoE abilities. With these things in mind, Aatrox's game plan will be to harass Jax when he goes for CS so that he can land his spells for maximum damage with the outer parts of Aatrox's Q. After landing harass, he would naturally slow push to tower because of his AoE abilities and they would push the wave while he's trading. And then, he can land more harass when Jax tries to CS under the tower. The main missions that he will need to achieve to execute this strategy would be punish last hits, push to tower, and don't get ganked. We'll talk more about these when we get into the gameplay. To deal with this, Jax will want to try and bait out Aatrox's Qs when he goes for CS and then dodge them. By baiting out and dodging Qs, he can CS more safely and survive the lane more easily, where he can look to get strong enough in the 1v1 by around level 9 with 5 points in W and a Sheen purchase. Jax could also win trades in the lane if he does bait out Aatrox's abilities and dodges them. The junglers in this game are Xin Zhao for Aatrox and Trundle for Jax. Let's get into it. As the lane starts, imagine that you are the Aatrox here playing top lane. You know that your plan is to push and harass, so what is the first thing that you would need to think about at this very moment? So what you need to think about right now is the enemy jungler. Having a game plan versus your opposing laner is great, but Aatrox's game plan is to be aggressive and push, right? So the opposing jungler needs to be considered more than usual. Look at the minimap, and where do you think the enemy Trundle is starting? He's more than likely starting his topside red, because his blue buff is being invaded without contest. It's also possible, but less likely, that he's invading topside blue. Either way, the jungler is starting topside. This is essential information because if Aatrox goes into lane right now and starts pushing, he's super vulnerable to die into that classic level 2 gank. We'll talk more about this in just a moment. Smeb reaches the minions first, but he won't hit them right now despite Jax not arriving to lane yet. This is because he has both push and damage dominance at level 1 and doesn't need to start hitting the wave to get the push. Instead, he can wait in lane until they're low enough to last hit and try to get started on mission 1 when Jax arrives. He goes for a Q to secure the CS and maybe hit Jax at the same time, but Jax avoids it. Jax goes for this last hit and Smeb tries to hit him with a second charge of Q for mission 1, but Jax cleanly dodges out of the way and takes no damage, and then he scores a last hit. This is really nice play from the Jax and is something that we will see a lot more of in this lane. Baiting spells from your opponent when they have the range advantage via going for CS and then pulling away is a super powerful way to get you through tough lanes, as we can see here. Jax then scores a CS and backs off before the third part of Smeb's Q. At this point, Jax does exactly what we've taught a bunch of times at GANKED, and that's trade when your opponent's abilities are down. Jax goes in and wins a nice trade despite being in the losing matchup, and then flashes the badge to let Smeb know. Jax continues to play tricky with his movement and dodges another round of Smeb's Qs, and Smeb is getting pretty outplayed so far and is failing on mission 1, but he is getting the push for mission 2. Finally, Smeb gets work done and quickly halves Jax's health, which is pretty significant. The wave is pushed into tower and Smeb goes to ward so that he can harass safely. Let's take a look. Ouch, so Smeb failed at mission 3 and is suddenly in an awful spot after things started to look good for him. However, things only started to look good because Jax was simply baiting with his jungler topside. It was at this very moment that Smeb was super dead, and even with flash into tower right away, he would almost certainly have died to the red buff Trundle with Pillar before escaping. But we do have to take a moment of appreciation for how clean this flash play was. Note how he waits for the very moment that Trundle exit the brush, and then he instantly flashes into it, and if Jax didn't eventually decide to come help, this would have been a montage worthy escape. Now we've seen Smeb die, think to yourself, how could he have avoided failing mission 3? As we saw at the start, Smeb's jungler started with the bot side blue still. In higher elo we can automatically assume that both junglers will be vertically jungling. In lower elo, regardless of if they will vertically jungle, you would have enough information to know that the enemy jungler is topside and could gank at level 2. This means that Smeb should have delayed all of his missions until Trundle has left topside, or his jungler has come topside. But how? Well, at the start of the lane, Smeb had the lane to himself as Jax was leashing. He could have grouped these 3 melees and walked away into the brush to get the wave pushing towards him over time. By grouping the melees together, they would attack more quickly without having to reposition as they engage, and would also mean that the red wave will reinforce sooner to the fight, as the first waves would collide slightly further up in the lane, as we can see here. Check out our wave management courses if that confuses you at all. But you may be thinking that this sounds like crazy 3D chess stuff that you don't need to do to win in low elo, and you are totally right. But this is a very simple move that you can make for those that have a good understanding of wave management to stay safe during the level 2-3 jungle threat. A simpler way of doing this would have been to let your opponent push, which they likely will in lower elo, because they would just mindlessly auto the wave and you would get pretty much the same result, right? And you may also be thinking that playing defensive as a lane bully like Aatrox sounds horrible. And you're right, it's not ideal, but you do have to respect early jungle threat, especially if your jungler is going to be bot side for a long time, like in this situation. Smeb can get aggressive later when the threat has passed, but instead he got aggressive early and died. With this death, do not make the mistake of teleporting to your minions. The jungler is still topside, so Smeb correctly teleports to his tower, and then he looks to set out some vision with 2 brush wards so that he can push up and reset the wave. He ends up shoving the wave, which is great, and now it will reset. With full confidence to stay pushed up with the wards, and Xin finally coming topside, Smeb executes on mission 1 and 2 and lands some nice harass. Jax dings level 4 on this minion though, and then he engages onto Smeb while he was locked into his 3rd Q charge animation. And this leads to Smeb getting a really awful trade because Jax still has teleport and Smeb does not. Jax goes for the recall and it cannot be stopped. He then teleports instantly back into lane to pressure with his health lead and potentially set up a freeze. Smeb goes for the knockup onto Jax because Xin is here, but Jax Qs out of his radius and makes things super dangerous for the Aatrox. This leads to Jax using his flash advantage to land a double stun, finish off Smeb and nearly kill Xin Zhao while he's at it. At this point, Smeb is pretty screwed, and this is where basically every other top laner gives up. They tilt, blame their jungler, wants to FF at 15, stuck in elo hell because they get unlucky teams, and so on. On top of that, Jax is building a big wave to crash and then he will recall and spend his gold. He's about 1.5 levels ahead, and remember, this is a matchup that Aatrox should win in the lane, but he's fallen victim to Jax's outplays and his own mistakes. Jax starts to push his big wave to set up his recall, and Smeb correctly plays back and waits because he cannot contest. We're about to see the first misstep from Jax. Let's take a look. Rolling it back, and the mistake from Jax was going in. While Jax does have a lead, this is still an early game Aatrox, and he hasn't shopped yet since scoring the kill and clearing 3 minion waves. He's also going in with his Q, which means that he has no escape from Aatrox's retaliation on his side of the minion wave, so this put him at half health right away. Jax's focus should have been on simply clearing the wave. He has a slow push build to clear the wave and then get a clean recall off, but he went for a meaningless, poorly executed trade and then realized that he needs to shove and recall. This is where Smeb caught him tunneling on the minion wave and underestimating his damage, landing the unexpected kill. This looks much more like a throw than Smeb making plays in order to come back. But think to yourself, in Bronze, Silver, Gold, Platinum, Diamond, Masters and NA Challenger, players who are ahead will leave windows open to come back 99% of the time, as we see here from this Jax who has played super well until now. What we can all learn from Smeb here is how he did not tilt and he identified a window to punish the Jax. Even if players do maintain a positive mindset after this awful start, so many times we see them play completely passive because they're behind, just playing full damage control. Most players would have retreated to their tower the moment that Jax jumped in. So how does Smeb convert on that to actually win this lane with that single kill? Well, he will start by slow pushing to set up his own recall. Slow pushing a big wave to set up your recall is one of the best ways to set up a buy, because by the time your opponent clears it with their tower, it will push back to you as you get back to lane and you'll hardly miss any CS. This is what Jax was doing after he scored his kill, but then he fell victim to that tasty QW trade that he just had to go for. With the recall and coming back to lane, Smeb missed maybe 2 melees for a clean buy thanks to that previous slow push. He starts working on another slow push, and this time looking for more success with his original 3 missions that he will be sticking with. Speeding it up as he pushes, he also sees Trundle bot side while Xin Zhao is top side. This means that he could potentially dive the Jax with his jungler instead of just harassing under tower. Jax spots Xin on a ward and pulls back. But this is already a huge win, as Jax will be zoned from this wave of CS and experience. Jax actually makes the best play possible here and goes for the 1v1 onto Zen while he's trying to steal Crux. This will lower the jungle pressure off of him considerably since Jax wins this 1v1. Smeb goes to help out and they end up dropping Jax to around 20% health, so it's still a huge win, regardless of missing the kill, as Jax lost experience, CS, and will miss more CS. This was a horrible play from the Xin to get caught in that 1v1, but Smeb gets the most out of it anyway. He ends up sending the Jax home, actually leading to a lane swap. Yeah, Jax wanted to lane swap away from the lane that he was hard winning 2-0, because Smeb did not tilt and found windows to come back big time. Here's how the lane swap worked out for the opposing team. To recap, we saw Smeb go into lane with a winning game plan in a winning matchup, but only in the 1v1. He did not respect the vertical jungling and started pushing and harassing immediately. This led to Smeb getting killed by the jungle despite an excellent flash outplay which set Smeb behind, but it was still winnable. Unfortunately, due to some great Jax play and some lacking execution on his part, Smeb died soon after, putting him at 0-2 in the lane and behind more than a level of experience, which is the FF at 15 threshold for basically every other solo queue top laner. But Smeb stuck with it, seeking opportunities to come back in the lane, and he capitalized on Jax overstepping before he bought more items, and actually landed a solo kill in a seemingly impossible scenario. He then did what Jax could not, which was slow push into an optimal recall to translate his gold lead into becoming strong before getting really aggressive. This evened the scales in experience and he slow pushed again, this time deleting Jax from the rift with his jungle threat from the Zen despite his poor execution and getting outplayed by the Jax previously. Alright, so that's it for this one. Thanks for watching and we will see you in the next video.